charge that you're facing?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand that charge?
Yes, ma'am.
As to that charge, how do you plead, guilty or not guilty?
Not guilty.
More than 25 years after the murder of rapper Tupac Shakur in Las Vegas, the only person to be arrested in the case faced a judge today and entered a not guilty plea. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to West Coast Wrap. I'm Alex Savage. Today, the judge told defendant Dwayne Davis prosecutors do not plan to seek the death penalty in this case. Fox's Sunny Sai has more tonight on what happened inside that Las Vegas courtroom.
Dwayne Davis appeared in court for the third time today after his arraignment was delayed twice. He pled not guilty and waived his right to a speedy trial. The state will not be seeking the death penalty in his case. Davis originally had hired a private attorney to represent him, but due to financial reasons, he will now be represented by special public defenders. The private attorney says he hopes to get back on the case once Davis and him reach a financial agreement. 27 years after the murder of Tupac Shakur in 1996, Dwayne Davis is accused of planning the killing. Police say Davis is the last living suspect from this case. Investigators say Davis was in the white Cadillac from which the bullet that killed Shakur came from. Under Nevada law, you can be charged with a crime if you help someone commit the crime. Clark County Defense Attorney Steve Wolfson says today's appearance was merely a formality and expects a trial date to be set for sometime next year.
I think everybody wants this case to proceed through the criminal justice system, the prosecution certainly, and certainly Mr. Davis will have his opportunity to present whatever evidence he wishes to, and that's the way the criminal justice cases proceed through the criminal justice system.
Dwayne Davis will be back in court November 7th to have his trial date set. In Las Vegas, Sunny Sai, Fox News.
And earlier we spoke with TMZ about what it means for Dwayne Davis to be represented by a public defender.
I don't know how much of a difference his representative is going to make in this one, because as we've been saying since he was arrested, this is a guy who for years has been telling everyone who wanted to hear it that he was in the car and that he handed the murder weapon to one of two other people who were in the car, and that they fired on Tupac.
TMZ says those public admissions by Davis may be hard for a public defender or any other attorney to argue against. And that court appearance today in Las Vegas comes as the city of Oakland prepares to honor the legendary rapper tomorrow with a street naming ceremony. A stretch of MacArthur Boulevard near Lake Merritt will be renamed Tupac Shakur Way. Commemorative plaques and signs will go up along a part of MacArthur Boulevard. Shakur moved to that neighborhood in the early 90s and credited Oakland with helping to launch his extraordinary career. I talked earlier with Shakur's sister, who will be there for tomorrow's renaming ceremony.
Out of all of the places we've lived and he's lived, Oakland, truly he felt completely loved and seen here, and he really loved the people, the community. He loved all aspects of what Oakland stood for, and I'm happy for him that this is a sign that Oakland is proud of him as well.
That ceremony to honor Tupac Shakur is set for 10:30 in the morning tomorrow at Oakland's East Shore Park. Well, we told you last night about a group of West Coast mayors looking for more help from the federal government to help with an influx of migrants. Tonight, we've learned the mayor of Denver has heard back from the White House.
We think that's a great beginning to the conversation, and the team that's overseeing this day to day. We'll stay in close touch with them and with the senior White House staff, and we've viewed that as the same need with both the Senate and the House leadership, as we want to open this conversation, have them be directly in contact with people that are running cities on the ground that see the biggest impact of these decisions.
That's Denver Mayor Mike Johnston speaking today after meeting with President Biden's chief of staff. He was among 5 mayors who met yesterday in Los Angeles on their own. They're all joining forces to try to secure more federal funding to address the needs of migrants in their city. The Biden administration has an outstanding request for Congress to approve $1.4 billion, money that would be dedicated to helping state and local governments provide shelter to migrants. A group of migrants in Denver who turned an encampment site into a temporary home are now looking for a new place to stay tonight. Crews cleared that camp, citing concerns about open fires and health issues. Fox 31's Rogelio Mares spoke to some migrants who say they have nowhere else to go.
For some, there's nowhere but here to stay. For others, the days in shelters are dwindling.
others like Maria Liz Leon Mora. She says the cold has been awful, especially because they aren't used to this kind of weather in Venezuela. That's where she, her 5- and 1-year-old daughters and husband came from. She wants to get her daughters out of the cold weather as soon as she can. She calls her family situation very difficult. Like many families, this was a trip to find a better life. Now they're looking to start that life. A tough start so far. Besides a place to live, she wants to find work for her and her husband so the family can start earning a living. Her husband, John, does find little work here and there. He says the very little he does earn is for food for his family. Opportunities for work are scarce. For some, it's a competition. John says he's looking for a job in home renovation, construction, roofing, or painting homes. Another woman using a different tactic, making a sign marketing herself and her services. She says she's looking for work to make her situation more stable for her and her daughter. She says she has a strong desire to start working. They took a gamble to get here, which was a win for them, but for these folks, there are more challenges left to meet. She says she'll take whatever God puts in her path, but she wants to start working very soon.
And that was Fox 31's Rogelio Mares reporting for us tonight. The city of Denver expects it will spend more than $42 million on housing migrants this year. In Arizona, the city of Phoenix has finished clearing out a massive homeless encampment known as the Zone. That sweep wrapped up yesterday, and it came after a judge imposed a November 4th deadline to remove tents, trash, and makeshift structures, while also finding housing for people to move into. People living in that area say they finally feel safe to open their doors and windows again.
It was so congested before, and it's now so much quieter. And it's a big relief. It's a major relief.
City officials say after the cleanup, 120 people accepted a spot in an indoor shelter, and 9 others went to a new safe outdoor space in Phoenix, which opened up this week. A Bay Area law firm has now filed lawsuits against the U.S. State Department and the Department of Defense on behalf of American Palestinians who are trapped in Gaza. These families are urging the government to evacuate their elderly relatives, and they say their lives depend on it. The lawsuits were filed in San Francisco federal court by an immigration attorney representing the families of 2 Bay Area grandmothers. Both are stuck in Gaza and today received clearance to cross the border into Egypt. However, one is very frail and in need of medical attention, and both women need assistance to get to the border crossing, which is several miles from where they are.
We filed these lawsuits in hopes that this will finally provoke the State Department to take action to bring these U.S. citizens back home. We are here to demand that the U.S. government immediately and safely evacuate every single American citizen from the Gaza Strip.
One of those stranded grandmothers is 81 years old and lives on the peninsula in the Bay Area. When the war started, she was in Gaza visiting and staying at a home she's owned for 30 years. Her family says she's in need of medical attention because of her health and can't make it to the border alone.
Unfortunately, our home has been bombed. It's more than a concern, it's a life risk. She's already in war. She has no medication. She hasn't ate or drinking for almost 30 days. No lights, no electricity.
According to the State Department, there are around 400 Americans in Gaza who have expressed a desire to leave. It says they will be assigned specific departure dates.
I'm just here to tell the girls that are out there that they are not alone.
An emotional response tonight to a settlement worth nearly $20 million. Coming up, harsh words from attorneys for 14 people who say they were abused by an educator at a Southern California elementary school. And see how New Mexico welcomed a group of commercial astronauts back to Earth after a brief trip to the edge of space.
And in weather, for West Coast weather, we have sunshine, we have clouds, we have warm temperatures and rain back in the forecast, especially up in the Pacific Northwest. Here's a live camera looking up towards Seattle, the Space Needle. We'll have more in your forecast and a rainy forecast coming up.
Alaska Airlines faces a lawsuit tonight over that mid-air scare that forced a plane to make an emergency landing in Oregon. 3 passengers are now suing the airline, saying they suffered emotional distress. An off-duty pilot who was on the flight is accused of trying to shut down the plane's engines. The plane landed safely after the crew subdued him. Those passengers suing say the off-duty pilot should have never been allowed in the cockpit because he was suffering from depression and a lack of sleep. Alaska Airlines has not responded to a request to comment on that lawsuit. Las Vegas culinary workers have set a strike deadline after months of contract talks. The workers say about 35,000 union members could walk off the job November 10th if there's no deal with MGM, Caesars, and Wynn Resorts. 18 major hotel properties could be affected by a strike, and it would come as Vegas is set to host tens of thousands of visitors for the Formula One race in mid-November. The workers are calling for improvements in wages and health insurance. The Los Angeles Unified School District has agreed to pay $19.9 million to settle sexual abuse claims. Lino Cabrera, former teacher's aide, was convicted back in 2020 for sexually abusing children at an elementary school in North Hollywood. That settlement was reached on behalf of 14 alleged victims who were around 10 or 11 years old at the time.
I'm just here to tell the girls that are out there that they are not alone.
The incompetent administrators of the LAUSD again failed to protect students. They looked the other way when a pervert was touching the students.
Lino Cabrera pleaded no contest in 2020 and was sentenced to 8 years in state prison and ordered to register as a sex offender for the rest of his life. A man arrested for a murder that happened decades ago in San Diego County says he is not guilty. Fox 5's Sarah Barker spoke with the victim's loved ones who say his arrest brings up painful memories.
It's been a long time coming.
Margaret Orozco Jackson's family has been searching for justice for 33 years.
She was beautiful. She was a beautiful woman.
She was found dead with a rope around her neck on Scripps Ranch Boulevard on July 11th of 1990.
She was happy-go-lucky. She was always involved in family events.
Jackson's body was found in this area of Scripps Ranch Boulevard back in 1990. It's been 33 years since her death, so you could imagine this area looks much different today than it did back then. In fact, Scripps Ranch High School right here behind me wasn't even built yet. The search for her killer went cold, but was reopened last year, and authorities connected 62-year-old Randall Euler to her death.
We're finally going to get to learn who he was. I don't know if we'll learn why, but it'll bring closure to my family.
Jackson's family was in the courtroom Tuesday waiting to see the alleged killer for the very first time. And after waiting 33 years, they now have to wait another day as the painful memories are flooding in.
We were watching the news, and they were talking about they had found a body of a Jane Doe, and she had no identification on her, but the only way they could describe her is that she had a tattoo on her thigh that said Tommy. And as soon as my mom heard that, she yelled out, "Margaret, it's my sister Margaret."
At the time, the San Diego Metropolitan Homicide Task Force was investigating more than 40 homicides involving women who were sex workers that may have been killed by a serial killer. When detectives made the break in this case, Randall Euler was already in custody for a warrant probation violation. He's now charged with murder and faces 25 years to life. We're still hoping to learn a lot more information about this case, including how police connected him to the crime so many decades later. Reporting downtown, Sarah Barker, Fox 5 News.
In Arizona, health officials say the Phoenix area has set a troubling record. Authorities in Maricopa County have confirmed heat was a factor in another 100 deaths this year. That brings the total number of heat-related deaths to 569 this year. That far surpasses the previous record set last year when 425 people died during hot weather. For more, let's bring in KTVU meteorologist Mark Tamayo for some perspective on those very disturbing figures. Mark, we know the Phoenix area, we have talked about it. Yeah. They saw some really long stretches of extreme heat this year. Yeah, not only right around 100 degrees, Alex, but even approaching 120 degrees earlier this summer. So, yeah, that's the dangerous heat as we take a look here. For the year, 133 days with temperatures at 100 degrees or warmer, and the hottest temperature of the year, 119 degrees. That actually happened 3 times
July 19th, July 20th, and July 25th. So thankfully, that heat is not in the picture anymore. In fact, temperatures will just be in the 80s, maybe approaching the lower 90s over the next several days. Here's the overall weather pattern. Once again, we're tracking the jet stream, and we have atmospheric rivers out here in the Pacific that'll definitely produce a lot of rainfall up in the Pacific Northwest over the next several days. Here is the forecast model, including Northern California, and those numbers do go up. We're taking this not only into the weekend, but also into next week as well. This is through Wednesday evening, 8 p.m. As you can see in Seattle today, they actually had some breaks in the rainfall throughout the afternoon hours, temperatures in the 60s, but another system is coming on board by tomorrow night. In San Francisco, lots of scattered high clouds looking out toward Golden Gate Park and Ocean Beach. Temperatures actually fairly warm in the Bay Area, temperatures in the 70s, and this is actually Santa Monica, but nearby Los Angeles, enjoying the warm temperatures. Temperatures actually in the 80s. So here is the deal for tomorrow. There is another storm developing, and this will be the next rain producer up in the Pacific Northwest. There's a chance tomorrow afternoon, but things really get going by tomorrow night. Some high clouds for Northern California, temperatures in the 70s, and once again, we're talking about some 80s for Southern California, also approaching Phoenix. So here's the satellite and the radar. Once again, some clouds, some green, some rain showers approaching Northern California. As the remnant parts of that to weak system moving to the south. As far as current numbers out there, temperatures ranging from 43 degrees in Spokane to the 70s out toward Phoenix and down towards Southern California. As far as that rainfall, you can see that next system coming on board here. This is Friday afternoon. Still not a lot happening just yet, but things will change rapidly throughout the afternoon hours and into Friday night. So it looks like a soggy Saturday forecast for Portland and Seattle, and some rain showers down into Northern California for Eureka, and the chance even closer to San Francisco. So here's kind of the breakdown over the next 3 days. There we go, some rain clouds closer to Seattle. San Francisco, a sun-cloud mix. It's still a nice forecast for Southern California. Not talking about triple digits for Phoenix, but temperatures could be warming up to near 90 degrees by Sunday. And Denver, no major snowstorms just yet. Those readings mainly in the 60s to the lower 70s. So once again, the main storm track will be a key factor, and still some active weather pattern up toward Seattle over the coming days. Alex.
Yeah, a busy few days for them up there. Mark, thank you. This week's official reopening of Maui to tourists comes with some mixed feelings for many people on the island. KHON2 News' Christy Tamashura reports visitors are being asked to show respect and compassion in a community that is working to recover from those devastating wildfires.
The Maui Ocean Center says it's been a slow climb since the first phase of reopening tourism to West Maui back on October 8th.
So we've seen a little bit of an improvement there, but we're interested to see what this next phase does for us.
Fortunately, the popular tourist attraction has not laid off any employees, but it says the next phase will be essential in moving forward.
Unless we see more of an uptick, then we will continue to operate as tight as we can, and hopefully not find ourselves having to make tough decisions that other companies have already had to make.
For Anti-Snorkel and Lahaina Gateway, it's a different story. The company had to lay off some of its employees, but they're optimistic business will flow in.
So we are looking forward to seeing more people. I guess that's been our challenge, is the north part of the island opened. That was a little bit far from us, whereas we're looking forward to the Kaanapali area reopening as of today.
Almost 3 months after the fires, the full return of West Maui tourism comes with mixed feelings.
It's been very challenging. We have our own concerns, but they seem minor in comparison to what so many folks have been through. At the same time, we know how important it is that we are all able to pay our bills. I have 4 children that were born here on the island, and of course they're expensive.
Lahaina resident Andrew Candelario, who lost his home in the fire and moved into a hotel before relocating to Kihei, says the return of tourism is a balance hard to navigate.
I've always got mixed feelings about tourists. I know we need them. And some of my best friends are tourists, because they come every year. I worked in the industry here on the beach, and some people are always, hey, what's it like, and they're calling up, and should we come or should we not come?
According to the Department of Business, Economic Development and Tourism, the impacts from the Maui wildfires were significant in September, with both visitor arrivals and spending down by 50%. While more visitors are expected to touch down on the Valley Isle, residents are asking for respect, compassion, and aloha.
I've been fortunate enough that people have been helping me, people that I don't know. And, that would be the thing that I would say. If you're coming, find something that you can do for somebody.
DBED says they anticipate tourism to improve in the next coming months, but they don't expect pre-wildfire visitor numbers until late 2024. Reporting from Ka'anapali, Chrissy Tomshiro, KH12 News, working for Hawaii. We'll send it back to you.
Coming up on West Coast Wrap, back to Earth after an unforgettable flight that took off from New Mexico. Coming up, their crew shares more on their brief time on the edge of space today. Plus, optimism in California's wine country, the signs suggesting it is going to be a great harvest. "45 years in the making," and music lovers have a new Beatles song to enjoy tonight. "Now and Then" was released today. It was recorded at John Lennon's home not long before he was killed in 1980. With the help of artificial intelligence, producers managed to isolate Lennon's vocals. Living Beatles band members Paul McCartney and Ringo Starr re-recorded their parts. Producers added work by guitarist George Harrison, who died back in 2001. It's looking like a great year for wine in Northern California. Vintners say a relatively wet winter and cool temperatures are pointing to a promising harvest. KCRA's Maricela de la Cruz has more tonight from Amador County.
After a few months of concern,
never this late in the year like this year. So we are scheduled to bring our last fruit probably around November 10th so next week.
And as grapes are still being pressed and processed,
I think for those that got to pick things at the appropriate times, probably had fantastic results, and we will experience some of that as well. For the stuff that came in late, or the stuff that really had a hard time getting to ripeness levels, might be a little bit more difficult.
Harvest season is finally wrapping up without major setbacks in Amador County.
Thank goodness this year we only had 1 or 2 showers that were flash showers. They did not last more than 24 hours, and the next day with the temperatures rising right above 75 degrees, the fruit kind of dried naturally.
Amador County's 50-plus vineyards have more grapes on the vine compared to last year's harvest.
Last year was not as proliferous, so the crop was not nearly as big. This year is kind of a bumper crop.
And after a few challenging years, those in the wine industry are positive that this is one of the best years for California's wine country.
This year will easily enter on the book as one of the 5-star harvests of the last 20-25 years.
In Plymouth, Maricela de la Cruz, KCRA 3 News.
Tonight, a new group of commercial astronauts is celebrating an unforgettable mission to the edge of space. A crowd welcomed those astronauts back to Earth in New Mexico today. The Virgin Galactic crew's entire mission lasted about 1.5 hours. It included several minutes of weightlessness. They performed healthcare experiments while they were in flight. A brief trip, but no doubt a very memorable one. That does it for West Coast Wrap tonight. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great rest of your night.